What's going on, boxing fam? Subscribe or die trying. Let's just get right into it. The Pacquiao Mayweather, or excuse me, the Mayweather Pacquiao aftermath. Manny Pacquiao got exposed. Point blank, point blank, period. He got exposed. Now, don't get me wrong. That doesn't mean anybody else is going to be able to do that. But right now, there's a lot of fighters out there that are not afraid of Manny whatsoever. Right now, it's a lot of fighters out there that are probably clamoring to get their hands on Manny Pacquiao and that payday and that stardom. Floyd Mayweather exposed him. I'm hearing a lot of excuses, uh, a lot of hate, which I specifically remember everybody universally saying after this fight there'll be no excuses, and after this fight, all I've heard was excuses. I've heard people blame Floyd because the fight was boring, which personally I don't understand how the person who lands more punches and also throws more punches is to blame for the fight being boring. Manny Pacquiao is the one that's supposed to throw 100 punches around. Floyd did what he normally does. And Manny actually did less than what Floyd does. He threw less punches than Floyd. He landed less punches than Floyd. And not only just landed less total punches, because you're going to have a lot of people try to say, oh, Floyd just jabbed him to death. He landed less power punches than Floyd, too. There's like no statistical number that Manny bested Floyd in. So there's no possible way you can act like he won. Even though where I was watching the fight, I had a bunch of people saying Manny won, which was totally ridiculous. Either they were like drunk, on drugs, or just delusional. But all I'm hearing is Floyd ran, he ran, he ran, he ran. You can't win a fight by running. That's one thing you can't do. You cannot win a fight by running. Now I've seen a lot of runners in boxing. For example, I seen a bunch of people who fought Mike Tyson that ran. Mike Tyson knocked him clean out because you can't win a fight by running. And if Floyd was just running, and if Floyd has no power, Manny should have just walked right through him. That's my opinion. Like, why wouldn't he? Floyd doesn't have any power. Why wouldn't he just walk right through him? He's running with no power. And then, the excuse of that Floyd was holding too much, which was totally dumb. That wasn't happening. And then I really, 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 really lost respect for Manny when he said he thought he won the fight. Come on, dude. Come on. Get a man his credit. You've been saying that man's been running from you and he's been scared of you for 5 years. And then when he gets in there, gets in the ring with you, gives you your biggest payday ever, and schools you after the fight, you say that you thought you won. And then later you say that you had a shoulder injury. You had a shoulder injury, and it's hard to fight with one arm. You've been fighting with one arm your whole career, and you've been fairly successful doing it. So don't complain about having one arm now. All you have is a left hand. Now, in the famous words of comedian Robin Harris, when he was talking about Larry Bird, and they said Larry Bird, fuck Larry Bird, all he got is a 3-pointer, and he was like, that's all he need. And the same with Manny, all he had was the left hand, but that's all he needed until he fought Floyd. So don't complain about you being one-handed suddenly, because you've never needed more than one hand your whole career. And me watching this fight, you didn't really appear to be all that one-handed. I saw you throwing rights and lefts. I saw when you caught Floyd Mayweather with that left in the fourth round, I believe it was, and and when Floyd was on the ropes, I saw you unleashing punches, and you didn't seem like you had any pain in your arm to me. I didn't hear you in between rounds telling Freddie Roach, my arm's kind of sore. So don't get out there after the fact and say that you were injured. And I'm not even going to deny and say that you weren't injured, but you obviously weren't injured enough to not stop the fight cuz you'd have just postponed the fight if you were injured that bad. I remember Floyd had a fight. He had a rib injury, he postponed it. You'd have did the same thing. So don't sit up here and all that talk that you did that whole week. You did all this talk. You you said God will deliver Floyd into your hands. Freddie Roach said he'll be surprised if Floyd even shows up for the fight. I'm sorry, but if I got a shoulder injury, I'm not gonna be talking all crazy like that. Especially if my opponent isn't talking. So you can't use that as the excuse, like a lot of people say. Oh, they were just trying to, they were talking because they were just bluffing. They didn't want to tip on anybody that Manny might have been hurt. Nah, nah, nah. You can't get that by me because Floyd's camp wasn't talking at all. So there was no reason for Manny's camp to be talking. They were talking because they were just that confident. You injured and you talking all crazy. And speaking of, you know, God will deliver him into my hands. What was super interesting to me is is all this God talk before the fight, and after the fight, you didn't mention God once. As a matter of fact, after the fight, in the post fight press conference, the not even a press conference, but just immediately after fight in the ring, the person who mentioned God was Floyd. They asked Floyd about the fight. The first thing he said is, "I want to thank God." They asked Manny about the fight. First thing he's talking about, "I think I won the fight." He didn't mention God not once. But the whole time you're mentioning God. God, 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 God. It's good versus evil. God's gonna deliver him into my hands. God this, God that. You got on your Jesus shirt and all this rhetoric, but then after the fight, after you lose, you don't even bring up God. Now I'm not trying to question your faith or anything like that, but at least keep it consistent, dude. If you're gonna be talking about God and how you're gonna win because of God, when you lose, keep it consistent. At least just say like Robert Guerrero said. After Robert Guerrero lost, he said, this gave him a platform where he could deliver the message of Jesus to everybody. He at least put a spin on it, but he still brought up God. You didn't even bring him up. Why don't you say, hey, maybe I was too cocky and God wanted to humble me. Maybe that was it. Cause one thing I can tell you, Manny Pacquiao, Freddie Roach, and all your fans, when it comes to sport, God don't care about who wins. He doesn't care. Why would he care? It's a sport. It's just playing. That's all. When it comes to a sport of boxing or any sport, it's just playing. It's the same way that the whole good versus evil narrative comes about. And I'm like, why are you even? People are saying Floyd's not a good role model. Why are you looking at an athlete as a role model? Like what? I need to question who raised you. If you're looking at an athlete as a role model for anything other than their dedication and skill to a sport, you are ridiculous. I don't care how good of a person Manny is or how good of a person Floyd is. I could care less. I just care about their skills. It's no different. It would be just like me, like when I was in high school, looking up to the looking up to the high school basketball star. He's my role model. What would be the difference? He's just because he's just playing a game. Or hell, I might as well look up to the role model of somebody outside I'm playing sandlot football against. Why don't I look up to him? Because he's just playing. The only difference between somebody just playing outside and somebody playing in a sport, because it still is just playing. They're getting paid. But that's just as stupid as looking up to somebody that's playing outside in the sandlot as your role model. Man, I don't know what type of parents y'all had, or what type of self-esteem issues you had growing up. I guess you needed a hero, but I don't look at sports figures as role models for anything other than work ethic and their skill set. Period. And with all this sore loser talk that I'm hearing, and oh, the fight was so boring. I wonder how boring the fight would have been if Manny would have won. I bet you wouldn't have been saying it was boring then. Now, to me personally, the fight wasn't boring at all. I thought it was a nice ebb and flow to the fight. I mean, I thought Floyd won the fight convincingly and easily, but Manny had his moments where it made it it made it a little tense. Where you're like, oh, okay, Manny's about to get back in this. He didn't, but it made me wonder. Now, would I want to see a rematch? Hell no. It's very clear who's a better fighter. That's clear. There's no reason for a rematch. Same thing could happen every time. Every time. And plus, why have a rematch when all you're going to do is hate on the winner anyway? If you sat there and hated on the person who threw the most punches and landed the most punches, you hated on him and blamed him for being boring, there's no reason to ever fight Manny Pacquiao again. And really, if I was a Pacquiao fan, you should be mad at Manny. Because he made the fight boring. He wasn't throwing any punches. So stop all that clown shit saying that it's Floyd. Your fighter didn't throw no punches. That's why he lost. I mean, if he would have threw more punches, he still wouldn't have connected. But he didn't throw any punches. And the one thing about Floyd, he has a way of making a great fighter look average. And he made Manny look just like all the rest of the fighters. You can say what you want about Floyd's style, but all I know is you have somebody like Marcos Maidana. He made Floyd fight. You had Miguel Cotto. He made Floyd fight. Floyd didn't fight them any different than he fought Manny. So maybe you got the trainer of the year, Freddie Roach. Maybe he needs to start earning his money and teaching Manny how to cut the ring off against somebody that just won't stand right in front of you. Because to me, personally, and I've never had anything, I've never had any really bad thoughts about Freddie Roach, but he didn't earn his money. And he didn't help Manny whatsoever. But in between rounds, I'm listening to the commentary in between rounds, and I'm hearing Boo Boy doing all the talking. I'm barely hearing Freddie Roach say anything. Like, come on, dude. You ain't taught this dude to cut off the ring yet? All right, I know it's Floyd Mayweather. I understand this. But you've seen fighters cut off the ring with Floyd. You saw Castillo cut the ring off with Floyd. You saw Maidana cut the ring off with Floyd. You saw Cotto cut the ring off with Floyd. You even saw Ricky Hatton cut the ring off with Floyd. So you have ways to cut the ring off. So either you didn't show Manny how to do it, or Manny just didn't listen to your instructions, and that right hand made him hesitant in doing it. Either or, get a man his props. That's all it is. Get a man his props. Because one thing I'll never sit back and let public perception dictate some nonsense like this. If you want to sit there and act like this is the fight of the century, and the only reason that it is deemed the fight of the century is because of all the people that are hating right now had all their hopes and dreams on Manny Pacquiao. That's the only reason. And now you feel like he cheated you. You had all your hopes and dreams laid out on Manny Pacquiao, and he didn't produce. Because this wasn't the fight of the century to me. I wanted to see the fight, and I thought it was going to be a good fight. And I like, and if there's probably no other fighter out there that I wanted to see Floyd fight other than Manny. But I never looked at Manny like he was invincible. Why would I? I've seen him be very look very mortal on several occasions. Stop being sore losers, because it's embarrassing. If anything, just don't say nothing. But just like before the fight, all that hate that was coming toward Floyd wasn't going to help Manny. After the fight, all this hate coming toward Floyd won't make Manny a better fighter. And then I keep hearing about who Floyd needs to fight next. What about who Manny needs to fight next? Because all you guys are doing is setting it up for Manny to have his next fight to be some cakewalk. That's all it is. That's all you want. You want Manny to fight somebody else to soft so he can look good again. And then he can say, see, it really was my arm. That's really what it was, my shoulder. That's what it was. Have Manny fight a live body his next fight. If he's going to continue fighting. Not a Chris Algieri that's coming up from 140. Not even, and no disrespect to him, but not even a Timothy Bradley who was coming up from 140. Or Brandon Rios, who was coming up from 140. But back to Timothy Bradley, like people probably dispute that Timothy Bradley comment, but he only had one other than Manny. Like how many times did Tim Bradley fight at 147 and look good? He fought Manny at 147. I can't even think of the guy's name that he just had a draw with, the guy who fought Keith Thurman. He won, but he didn't look devastating. Then probably the best he looked was against Marquez, who's another guy coming up in weight. Have Manny fight a legitimate welterweight that's a live body. And I'm not even saying that Manny's going to lose. But goddamn, quit trying to put Floyd at such a high standard and nobody else. And if you're not going to put anybody else at a high standard like that, don't sit there and try to compare the two. If you're not going to put Manny at the same standard as Floyd Mayweather, don't try to compare the two. Compare Manny to Keith Thurman then. Because Keith Thurman is still allowed to take a soft fight. If Manny is just as good as Floyd and all this nonsense you guys been saying for years, then he shouldn't be allowed to take any soft fights. No tomato cans. Everybody he fights should either have a title or be coming off of a spectacular win. Not coming up in weight, not being drained in weight, and not just fighting one type of fighter. That flat-footed, come straight forward fighter that you know Manny's going to destroy. Have Manny fight Keith Thurman. Hell, have Manny fight Triple G, since that's who they want Floyd to fight. Have Manny fight Canelo. And at 140, the only fighter that I would even want Manny to fight, that I would even want to see him fighting, is Terrence Crawford. Have him fight them guys. And stop having him fight these bums. Or these C-level fighters. Because if you want to be on the A level, you got to fight A level. And if you lose to an elite fighter, just take your medicine gracefully and just say you'll come back the next time. all this complaining and saying you won and saying that your shoulder hurt, that's just a bad look. It's a bad look. I don't know who told you to do that. I don't know if somebody told you to do it, but it looks silly, and you should be better than that. Congratulations to Floyd Mayweather. Did a great job. He showed boxing excellence. Did what he's supposed to do. Stayed first, and I was just thoroughly impressed. A lot of casual fans might have thought the fight was boring. It wasn't boring at all to me. If you know about boxing, there was nothing boring about the fight. There was even nothing boring about what Manny was doing to me. He wasn't throwing a bunch of punches because Floyd wasn't there to be hit, even if he's standing right in front of you. It was a chess match. If you wanted to see a fight, look outside the window. Because this is a boxing match. And Manny got thoroughly outboxed. Get familiar.